Matt Rhule talks about Penn State. He did not tell you what you wanted to hear. Or did he?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase.
Hi, welcome. It is Tuesday on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you, coming off of a Monday press conference for Matt Rhule. We thought it would be interesting and different, and it was. Matt Rhule had to field some questions about his alma mater opening up as a job, and the first words out of his mouth were, "I love Penn State."
Just what Nebraska fans wanted to hear, right? Yeah.
Does not give you the full picture. But he played it relatively close to the vest on any potential interest that he might have in that job, and also during the press conference, he was asked about some things that could be done here, basically to make it more enticing to stay, which was fascinating, and he had some thoughts on that predictably as well. So just another Monday here in Nebraska.
Yeah, we are in it now, man. Like, the stuff has arrived. Like, you were waiting for 6 games for some real Nebraska football. I don't know, whatever it is that we've experienced for the last 10 years, 20 years. It's been relatively drama-free, and here we are. Did not see October 15th rolling around, and for us to be deep in a conversation about whether Matt Rhule was going to leave Nebraska in the next 2 months. But here we are. He spent the first 9 minutes of his Monday press conference talking about the firing of James Franklin and then his potential candidacy at Penn State as a replacement. And I think there was a sentiment from some Nebraska fans who believed that Matt Rhule was going to walk into the room, stride up to the podium on Monday, and say, "Count me out. I'm not interested in that. I'm all in on Nebraska. I want to be at this place until the day that I retire." And that was never going to happen.
Nope.
That's not the way it works in this business. That's not the way it works when your alma mater's job opens and it's Penn State. I don't even care if it's Penn State. I don't even care if his buddy is the athletic director there and they've worked together and all of this stuff that ties him back. It's not even that. It's just that if you are a head coach and you are savvy, and this is the situation that you find yourself in, you do not shut things off on day one. And Matt Rhule certainly did not. Why don't we just get right to what you teased at the beginning here? He was asked what Nebraska needed to do to compete at the highest level, because he said in his comments after talking about Penn State and how much love he had for Penn State and Pat Kraft, that he also loves Troy Dannon and has a great relationship with Troy Dannon and absolutely loves Nebraska. He said love like 9 times in his 9 or 10 minutes discussing this subject. So lots of love from Matt Rhule on Monday, that going out in multiple directions. And then he said that Nebraska needs to certainly step up in, not the school, but areas around the school need to step up in order to make Nebraska the best version of Nebraska that it can be. Let's go ahead and play those comments right now.
Unabashed. We can't always worry about the optics of everything. Like, it's a really hard time in higher education. There's cuts, there's all these different things, but we're athletics here is a separate entity. Like, we're not taking money from the university. And so the schools that invest, Dan Lanning had a great quote. I mean, when Oklahoma State, he said, he said, we're investing to win. And that's just players, right? And so, there's, in a world of like $30 and $40 million rosters, which isn't going away, I'd like us to do the same thing. And there's sort of like hey, that's not really the Nebraska way. And I'd like it to be. I'd like to invest. I'd like to be at the front of everything. Like weren't we one of the first teams to ever do training table? And weren't we one of the first teams to ever do like academic support? And weren't we one of the first teams to do AstroTurf, at the time Field Turf? And weren't we one of the first teams to have a jumbo board? But now, like, now we're talking about stadium, and everyone's like, oh, should we? Like, didn't they build the Memorial Stadium faster than they built the Capitol? Like, we've invested. We have a history here of being at the forefront and investing, and I just don't want to stop that. I just want to be the absolute best at it.
It's a great quote. It's most certainly a call to action, I think, for whoever needs to hear it around Nebraska's football program and around the state. It's the key line in there was, there's always been this, that's not, Nebraska has not been a state, it's the culture of the state. It's not a state that it's maybe a state that has money, but it's not a state that shows off the fact that it has money. With its money, it doesn't buy Cadillacs and whatever. That's a really dated reference by now, but you get the point. Like, it doesn't buy frivolous items. It buys stuff that works for them. And I think what Matt Rhule is trying to tell people is, like, let's show everyone that we have the ability to do this at Nebraska. Let's put it into our roster. Let's make this big giant stadium. Let's do all these things because we can. I think they can. I think he thinks there's some untapped, resources out there.
It's some of that. It's some of what you're saying, untapped resources. And then I also think it's what you said, an attitude about spending.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a politically charged word to say conservative or fiscally conservative. And it's a benefit to Nebraska that it is the one athletic department in the Big Ten that is in the black, that makes a profit annually, that is not in debt. And
we don't ask for money.
And that's great. Nebraska cannot continue to operate in a way that's different from other schools and expect to get the same kind of results. If the last 20 plus years have not shown that to the people who control the purse strings in this state and at the university, and I won't say the athletic department because the athletic department spends the money that it gets. Donors, politicians, regents, all the way up to the governor. If they think that Nebraska can continue to operate in the same way that it has with how it's allocated resources and continue to strive to match Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and the SEC programs, then they're not hearing his message. And unless they want to change some of that, unless they want to be more aggressive, if they choose not to change some of that, then it's very likely they may lose their coach. If not right here, then another time when he gets frustrated because Nebraska is not doing all that Nebraska can do for Nebraska athletics.
Right. And that would be
some people are not going to want to hear that, but that's the reality of the situation in 2025.
Well, I think some of it is a test too, right? For Rhule. Cause like, I think he sees this as somewhat of a, he's a smart, savvy business guy too. Like, that's why he didn't shut anything down today. That's why he didn't come out and say, I'm never going to go to Penn State, because number one, he knows that's, he can't know that that's the truth. And number two, because
even if he did,
there's cards to play. And this, I think, is one of them. So, we'll see what the hustle and bustle is like for the right people to get in the right rooms and say, here's what we need to do in order to show that we are capable of doing this, and those people in charge who have not done this way for a very, very long time, they decide, is this the coach? Is this the situation? Is this the time to change this decades long, centuries long sort of like thought process? It's fascinating. Like, it's because it's a core thing in the state. I'm not saying it's an issue, because I think a lot of people, they tell you, like, this is the way Nebraska is and we like it here. We like to get stuff done. We like to get our elbows dirty and we like to do it the hard way and stuff like that. And Rhule's saying like, all right, well, if that's the case, then just know it's going to be really, really difficult to expect us to be Ohio State. It's really going to be difficult for us to be Oregon. Oregon has a never-ending waterfall of money called Phil Knight and Nike, and Nebraska is looking for their waterfall. They're looking for it.
Nebraska has beaten the Ohio States of the world in its history by being Nebraska. This is not 1995. If you think that Nebraska's version of business as usual is going to win into the next decade, it's not. So he's talking to donors when he says the things that he does in referencing Dan Lanning about the $30 to $40 million roster and going out and investing in players. And then I think he's referencing, as we said, leaders in the state. Yep. And there has been discord. There has been there have been agendas that have held Nebraska back. And like the fact that all of this is coming into focus and is coming to the surface here as this discussion matures, I think is overdue. We talked about this some like in a veiled way when Trev Alberts left, and there was a perception which I believe was correct, that Trev was frustrated with some of the red tape that prevented Nebraska from committing resources in the way that he wanted to see them committed on his stadium project. Rhule referenced the stadium again. The fact that he said the word optics in that answer should not be lost on anyone, because that's the same word that Troy Dannon used in explaining why Nebraska's stadium project was being put on hold. It's right there in front of you if you make decisions in the state of Nebraska about how resources are allocated, and you can act or you can not act, and you may or may not lose your coach.
We talked about it before, but like, I don't know how many times did I hear it from, people who just casually follow Nebraska football in the state, not like, or in it day to day, like we are listeners of this podcast, but maybe you'll hear it from one of your family members and they'll say like, how is it possible? Or tell me, could you explain this to me, sports guy? Could you explain to me why they're cutting academic programs across the university and they're cutting $30 million worth of budget, and yet the football locker room is gold plated with golden toilets and iPads and the showers and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, I actually can explain this to you. And what Rhule is saying is, that thought process has been happening too long in the state. You need to just tell those people, this is not that. These are not the same piles of money that we're looking at. And it's vitally important to the success of the state, to the growth of the state and the growth of the football program and the university, for it to be really successful at football. That's the start. And that's how you do it.
If you want to try to be great, you can't apologize for having to spend money to do it. And that's more true in college sports today than it ever has been.
Yep. Let's take a quick break. We have more from Matt Rhule coming up on the other side on the Locked On Nebraska podcast.
Right now, a word from Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can often feel like a lot. Maybe you need a refresh. Maybe a guest room could use some new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your house, your home, holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. You need some outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget, and with free and easy delivery. Even on the big stuff, you can get all that you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. I've used Wayfair. My family has used Wayfair. We love how easy it's been to find pieces that fit our style, fit our budget. Everything's in one place. The checkout's a breeze. So instead of stressing about getting the house ready, enjoy the holidays with friends and family. Get organized, get refreshed, get back to your routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
And a word from the FanDuel Sportsbook, of course, where it is indeed the NFL season, college football season as well. And you got to get in this because this is a can't miss offer right now. New customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So just imagine the freedom of that idea on Saturday or Sunday. You place that first $5 bet, say money line on the Thursday night football game winner. You win it because you're a winner. And then you have $300 in bonus bets to play with throughout the weekend. I mean, just imagine the freedom. That's what FanDuel is offering to you all. So set that up right now, whether it be an anytime touchdown score or a same game parlay or live bet, whatever it might be. Head to FanDuel and get in on this offer immediately. Download FanDuel by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com, and be smart. Place that first $5 bet today.
All right, welcome back. Tuesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. Rest of the week lays out like this. We'll have an episode on Wednesday, another one on Thursday, maybe a guest by the end of the week. And of course, we're getting ready for the Friday night kickoff, 7 p.m. TCF Bank Stadium. That is on Fox, Big Fox. I see Tim Brando is back on the call. So we get Timmy B in the booth in Minneapolis. Looking forward to watching the second half of the season start. I'm sure at some point this week, probably by the third segment of this show, we're going to get back to talking about football. Huge game for Nebraska. As Matt Rhule brought to our attention on Monday, this will be an opportunity for Nebraska to win road games in back-to-back weeks for the first time since 2006. I had to go back and check that. You don't play back-to-back road games all that much. There are some seasons where Nebraska's not played on the road, and it's just two consecutive games, like without a home game in between. There can be a bye. They have not done that, and it was Bill Callahan who last led a back-to-back road game winning streak, or a road game winning streak, period. So that's exciting. One thing I want to clarify from that conversation that we just had about finances and Rhule's ultimatum, I suppose you could say, that he laid down for Nebraska's boosters and purse string holders. The Huskers do well in NIL. Nebraska is not dragging behind the rest of the Power Four when it comes to NIL. Now, the majority of its NIL resources come through the Pede family in Lincoln, which owns and operates the 1890 Collective. So there is a lot of room there for others in the state, and this is fully understood by the powers that be inside the Nebraska football program. There is a lot of room for others to step up and supplement or add to that pot, which then goes to pay players through NIL earnings outside of the revenue sharing dollars. So it's not like Nebraska is a poor football program by any stretch, but Rhule is striving to be on par with Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten.
They're not trying to lose recruiting battles because they fall short in a bidding war to anyone. Literally. Yeah. I mean, I think you could maybe even harken back to a situation that happened this offseason with a running back that they were interested in the transfer portal, and maybe they just didn't have enough at their disposal at that exact moment, and they're just trying to have that not be a question. So we're not talking about keeping up with the Joneses. We're talking about keeping up with some of the top 3, 4, 5 programs in the country in terms of how they spend money to acquire the people on their rosters, $30-40 million. I mean, if I don't think Nebraska has that at this moment, right? So find a way.
You got $14 million through rev share annually, and then perhaps another 10 to 12 that are coming in through NIL, which isn't far off from being at 30, but it's pretty far off from being at 40. And it may be on the lower end of that. They don't tell it. They don't give us the numbers, but and it's also a fluid number. Like you have to you have to get it every year to make it work. This is not an endowment type of situation, although they would like to make it.
There is some fluidity to it, indeed. So let's go to Matt Rhule's original comments today
Yeah.
on Penn State. First question right out of the gate. Hey, look, your alma mater's job came open. What are your thoughts on that? Here's Matt Rhule on Monday.
Penn State. Met my wife there. It's my alma mater. Fan since I was born. I think probably had a Penn State shirt when I was born. I love Pat Kraft. And really sad to see Coach Franklin go. When you think about what he did for my alma mater, the program was in peril, right?
Let's go from that right into him talking about Nebraska, and then we'll come back and assess both of these clips.
I'm not gonna talk a lot about job openings when they come. Maybe it's been a while here, but this is what happens when you win. I've dealt with it. We've won at Temple, and I dealt with it all the time. I've dealt with Baylor. I'm not going to talk about those things ever. I'm not going to talk about my contract here. I'm going to talk about the team. But yeah, I absolutely love it here, and I want us to continue to take the steps needed for us to turn this thing into a beast. And players all across the country want to come here. We have the best facilities. We have elite fans, and I'm just looking at the future. So.
Okay. You hear the emotion in his voice when he talks about both Penn State and Nebraska. And if it comes down to a situation where he gets an offer from Pat Kraft, it's going to really take an emotional toll on Matt, and I would imagine Julie Rhule as well. He did say, by the way, that Julie decides where they live. So, of course, his wife is her presence is going to loom large in whatever decision they make, if there's a decision to be made. And there was a lot of family talk from Matt Rhule in this conversation on Monday. He talked about his daughters and some of their activities that they partake in Lincoln, and how much they like being a part of this community. He talked about his wife and how she started a business, a hair salon, a blowout, whatever that is. Us sitting here talking about blow drying and blowouts is comical, but
Bad call
go visit Julie Rhule's establishment in South Lincoln.
Hey, well, people are now, Mitch, because they're gonna just go up to her and hey, can I get the whatever? Can I get the number 3 for the for my hair today? And also, are you leaving? Are you going to Penn State? I heard you were the decision maker. Now, so it's obviously we're one day into Penn State's coaching search, and I doubt that there's been any sort of contact made with any sort of candidates at this moment for Penn State. So he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. He doesn't know if he's going to be a candidate for that job. His name keeps coming up. That's just speculation by other people, but he said probably exactly what I thought he was going to say today. We even predicted it on the show yesterday. Like, I love Nebraska. And he does. He truly does. He loves Nebraska. So you just can't know. And I don't think he knows one way or the other right now. I think he could. I mean, hell, he could have the full intention of, he could have told the team or whatever, a day or two ago, hey, look, man, I'm not leaving. That's what he's going to say. Of course, that's what he's going to say right now. And that's before all the rest of it happens, and who knows how the next 6-7 weeks here play out. I'm sure Dylan Raiola did a Instagram and was like, if basically he's staying. He didn't say he's staying, like he's our coach, but like made it seem like, hey, look, he told me he's staying. I'm sure that Matt Rhule told Dylan Raiola and the rest of the team that he's staying. Why would he say anything else at this point in time? But we know how these things go. I'm not trying to make the argument that he is going anywhere. I'm just saying it's to go back to the word fluid earlier. It's a fluid situation.
Fluid. Is it going to be a distraction for Nebraska? Because this is an awful time to have a distraction when you potentially are on the cusp of something special in terms of what Nebraska has accomplished over the last decade, 2 decades in success, with its success in college football. This season and the way the schedule lays out over the next 6 games, it's all there for Nebraska. And to have a double-digit win season, whatever else you want to dream about. And is this now going to be something that impedes Nebraska's ability to be focused as it needs to be to win as many of these games as it can.
Hard to tell, but like I said, I mean, I'm sure he will do as good of a job as he possibly can with telling his players, to block that stuff out. He said it, he said as much today. So he can only control what he can control, and he could definitely tell his team, like, hey, look, don't worry about all that stuff. Like, we got a job to do. And that is the God's honest truth. Right. So and they do. But I can't guarantee you one way or the other whether or not it's a distraction. And there will probably be no way to really know. Unless there's an unpacking of it all after whatever has gone down goes down.
Or unless you think you can see it on the field. If Nebraska comes out and doesn't look focused on Friday night against Minnesota, and then all of a sudden the speculation runs that, well, they were distracted because of the Matt Rhule talk. I don't know. I think the coaches are going to do a nice job of getting this team prepared, and I imagine it's not going to be an issue in the locker room. Just in this conversation.
Mitch, it probably infuses some energy into it, would be my guess. It would probably work in the opposite of a distraction at this exact moment. Now, when those if and when those conversations become real and out there, then it probably, you get into distraction territory. But right now it's like, yeah, let's go. This is our guy. And as Rhule said today, we're rolling.
We'll just end it with this. There are going to be a lot of opportunities to read into comments that he makes or that others make over the next however many weeks this thing lingers, and it might linger for the rest of the regular season. It could be over in 2 weeks, could be over in 3 weeks. We don't know at this point, but Matt Rhule is going to talk on his podcast. His players are going to talk tomorrow. He's going to be on Pat McAfee. He's going to get continually asked about this. He'll probably get frustrated at some point, even though he did not today. So let's just not try to read. I saw people reading into his body language today. Somebody told me that he was touching his face too much. There are going to be opportunities to just dissect everything. And let's just let it play out. Was he talking in the past tense? That was a question that was asked to me.
Oh boy.
It's chill. It's going to be okay.
Please.
We'll react to what happens and what we know and try to not know things that we don't actually know. So if that makes sense.
It's a good way to put it. All right. When we come back, we're talking brain surgery after this.
We got a message right now from Game Time because college football is here and we could not be more excited. We couldn't be more excited about the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it, but let's be real. If you want tickets, that can be more of a battle at times than the game itself. There are endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. That's why Game Time is the best option to use for tickets. The app gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can view your seat view on the app. You can take advantage of zone deals. With zone deals, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and then you save the money. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Well, as we talked about yesterday, it was the first time since 2017 that Nebraska had a game-winning drive and won on, point blank period.
From behind, yes.
Come from behind, win in the last 4 or 5 minutes of a game.
2017
and
Purdue.
It's amazing. It's crazy to think about. And for a long time in the existence of this pod, we've talked about Nebraska just not being able to get over this mental hurdle. Well, they had a huge win on Saturday. They won a close game against Michigan State, and all of a sudden the tide is starting to turn. So, Mitch, I thought you asked a great question today, and we're going to play the answer in the press conference about it's sort of an introspective look at how far they've come in that category of being prepared to win games and make plays late. And here's what Matt Rhule's response was today.
I kind of assume when you're a losing team, it's really hard to become a winning team. I see coaches and we say, and they're great coaches, don't get me wrong, but You take over a winning program and you win. Oh, wow. Try doing what we do. Go somewhere and take over a program that's losing and teach it how to win. It's really, really, really hard. And so, but to your point, Mitch, I don't know that I understand, even the late game dynamics. I don't know that I was prepared for all that till I got there and saw it. And even, you go the next week, we went to Colorado, and it's like a 7-0 game in the second quarter, and all of a sudden just falls apart on us. I'm just like, man, we're gonna have to do brain surgery. And so, I mean, I'll be honest with you, last week's game was one of the most fun games I've ever been a part of, because not when we were losing. I'm saying we couldn't get things going, but because of the way the team just kept coming together and kept attacking it, and we were nowhere near that 2 years ago. So, but I don't know that I appreciated kind of how much would have to happen until I got here, and I certainly didn't appreciate the how covered we are, right? I look at other teams. I watch press conferences all day Monday. I watch other teams' press conferences. I said this to some of you guys yesterday. I think I'm way more respectful to you guys than some of the head coaches out there. I can't believe some of the things that are said. But B, they don't get asked hard questions and we get covered a lot. It's on the radio or this, and so just the magnitude of what this is for our guys. And so it's been me adjusting to it, and I've adjusted this year a little bit more to embrace it, not try to protect them as much. Be like, hey, this is what it is. Got to go play harder, play better. So I've come a long way in 3 years.
Brain surgery, Mitch.
He's talking there about the Minnesota game from 2023. So the first game for Matt Rhule was the last time that the Huskers went to Minnesota, and they went into that game thinking, all right, here we go. New regime, new coaches. We've been in this place for 9 months, man. We've turned it around. Everybody's thinking differently, got some new players. And they went out and they lost in the exact same way, with turnovers in the fourth quarter, Minnesota making plays down the stretch, kicking a field goal to win it, the same way that Nebraska lost all through the Frost regime. And Rhule came into the press conference. Still remember this, 32 games ago, came into the press conference and was asked about the, here we go again mentality. And he said, here we go again. This is our first game. I just got here. That stuff's over. That stuff's gone. It's done with. It doesn't matter. And later in the year, he made some comments about, well, we really had to get rid of those demons in our head. And it was a mentality thing. So I've always wanted to ask him, and haven't had the chance because it just hasn't come up in conversation until today. I've always wanted to say, so what was that? Did you really not understand in the moment that you guys had a lot of work still to do on learning how to win? Or did you just not want to admit it in the moment after the Minnesota game? And you heard him say, no, he underestimated it. Or he said, he went on to say that he underestimated what he was actually up against. And you don't know until you're in the moment just how much that stuff can linger in a team's makeup. And here they are, finally, 30-some games in, 31. He's 17-14. And just now, they're getting to this place where for the first time, they win a game with a drive coming from behind in the final minutes. It's amazing how long it can take. And some might say that Matt Rhule, it's taken too long. And look, Curt Cignetti did this overnight. But this is the Rhule system. He gets to it in year 3. This is the third time that he's led this kind of a turnaround.
Yeah, he even mentioned it later. I think he said, some people have done it faster, and he was talking specifically about Cignetti. I think,
everybody is all the time. That's all we talk about.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a great lesson. I think it's a great lesson, and not only that, and it's cool and interesting to hear him sort of admit, that on the journey that they're sort of on now. They haven't it's also never over, right? You could go right back to it tomorrow, and all of a sudden the thought process is back. But it's a good lesson in hey, this is a moving target. Even throughout the season, I think they learned a lot that they just couldn't have known in this season by playing Michigan. We don't know what it's going to be like until they punch us in the face, and that's a championship type of program, and they showed us how it was done that day. So as long as you learn those lessons and you take them and you use them, then you're going to be better off. And I think that he's shown in 2.5 years now that they're capable of learning those lessons and taking them and using them to their advantage.
So much of that is player buy-in and player accountability. And we asked these questions in year 1 about player buy-in. and the coaches and the players, they say the right thing. Oh yeah, we're totally bought in. Saying it, and they don't have to say it anymore because you can see it.
Yep.
And they don't talk about that anymore. Nobody said the word buy-in this year. Like when they stop talking about it and start playing like it, that's when you know it's real. And one of the things that Rhule said today, he talked about Ja'Cory Barney. And this was just out of the blue. Ja'Cory Barney at halftime of the Maryland game, he said, got up and gave a halftime speech to the team like he had never heard. I mean, is that an exaggeration? I don't know. Regardless, Ja'Cory Barney gave a stirring halftime speech to the team. What's that? Like, where does that come from? He's a sophomore. He's not a captain. Like, but that's what's expected now. And that's what's like baked into this program after 31 games is they have players like that who step up. And it's not always the guy that you think it would be. It's not always Dylan Raiola. It's not always Deshaun Singleton. It's not always Javen Wright, the players who've been around forever, Teddy Prohaska, whatever. It's not the player that you might think of as like the energy player, although Barney is definitely an energy player. He's the one, see, it was Sierra Wright last week. This week it's Ja'Cory Barney. So that's, I think, when you know that the buy-in is there. You don't have to talk about it. You just see it.
Oh yeah. And oftentimes those are the most impactful ones too. I mean, I love Friday Night Lights, the movie. Preacher didn't say anything until the very end. Preacher gave the speech and are like, whoa, let's go. Preacher, man, let's go play, or Comer or whatever it was. But like, what a movie. And that was really impactful, and it showed their sort of buy-in there. As I'm a Friday Night Lights, the movie expert. All right. So that's it for us today. We'll talk about football again tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got Dana Holgerson. Do we get Dana's weigh in on the Matt Rhule conversation? I don't know. I kind of dread like everybody who comes to the podium tomorrow getting asked about this, but it's somewhat inevitable. So we'll hear from Holgerson. We'll hear from John Butler. We'll hear from Dylan Raiola. We'll hear from a bunch of other Huskers. We'll be back to converse about that. The Minnesota game. It's a big game on Friday night, and it's coming up really fast. So we will be with you all week to discuss. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten. Craig is there breaking down the most exciting conference in college sports, rivalries, championships, everything in between. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.